Hey guys, Mustached Tom here to review the first Omen. Now, before I dive in, you'll probably immediately notice that this review, unlike every previous review, does not have my face capture. My camera has decided to die out on me today. So, if, if I do get some PayPal support, that'll be among the many things that I'll get fixed. The immediate plans, as well as a new microphone, as well as a new computer, a gaming computer to be specific. But that is for gaming related stuff. But anyways, this is in reference to the first Omen, so let's get back on track. So this is supposed to be a prequel movie to The Omen, if those are unfamiliar. That movie came out a while ago, had, I believe, either a trilogy or a fourth movie, I think. I don't remember how many movies there were. And then at some point it was remade in 2006 or something around that era. And now we're getting a prequel, which I don't know if it's a prequel to the original version or the remake version, but here we are nonetheless. And this pretty much follows the mother, Mary, or Maggie rather, as she is a nun and then is giving a surprise birth to Damien, as we will come to know him as in the later movies, but a baby in this, for the instance of this. And, of course, that baby will be the coming of the Antichrist as prophesized, as it were. So that is sort of the legacy the original movies have left behind. And after watching this movie, the first Omen, I decided to head back to watch the original movie. The original Omen movie. And it does seem like they did certain research, like how the church was set on fire and how the character's name does seem to be close enough. I think they changed it slightly. I don't... because I keep here, in my notes I kind of wrote different names. I think Maggie is like the most consistent she's called in the movie, this nun character. Now, throughout this, she is, we are following this nun as she's brought in as this new nun, and she's learning about the church and how they pretty much raise girls from babyhood to 18 years old, and then they can, I guess, become nuns themselves, or I guess that's how it would work in a religious school. I'm not too educated on religious schools myself, but I'm assuming that's how it works. Nonetheless, we follow her, and we follow her in a journey where she's dealing with this problem child, and she is not digging what is happening here. She comes across some visions, or perhaps some real stuff, where the church ladies are punishing this other girl, the young girl, as well as when they're helping giving birth. She has like this vision where like the thing that's coming out, it clearly isn't a baby, but like a demon hand. And of course, who can forget that at some point in this movie, the origin point, we have a certain character who the nun briefly knew, go up to a high point in the church, light a match, and then proceed to simultaneously hang herself, and then say the line that's, been cemented with the Omen, I suppose, is, "This is for you, Damien." Oh, of course, the name Damien isn't spoken here. She just says, "This is for you." And rewatching the first movie, I feel like there are definitely things. I'm going to chuck the remake after this review because I didn't want it to influence me in the way I'm thinking about it, but there are certain improvements that I could have seen the Omen making in terms of how that's set up. So I'm wondering if the remake handles any of that really well, or if it's worse off. I don't know. And in this instance, in this movie, the first Omen, I feel like those issues are very much here as well, where there doesn't seem to be any proper setups to this. Now, I know that someone can retort, well, it's supposed to be a possession or takeover or, something of that nature. But even in that inclination, in the first movie, there's this thing with the dog, that there seems to be a moment with the dog that is very prevalent. And yeah, I don't think it directly correlates to the woman if I remember every scene as I was watching it. But nonetheless, I feel like there could have been something, a certain look, a certain change in behavior, something to give us, the audience, the hint of something happening that's off and then leading to this. And, I think there is something to the abruptness of it. And, in looking at the Omen, the original movie, they're at this party. I believe they're celebrating his 6th birthday because, of course, for the sake of the movie. And everything's fine, but the music is what's offsetting everything in that scene. The music that is playing for us, the audience, while all of this neat stuff is happening, and then we begin to hear her voice. The setup here is sort of similar in that way, but the music isn't. I think it only enters in as we see it, not beforehand, not sort of eerily guiding us to that setup, if I have that correct. So I think that there could have been a few minor adjustments, even if they were going for a more surprise, we're doing this recognizable scene. Either you do the abrupt thing but you allude to it through ominous music, or you set it up with other hints and elements beforehand and then do it. One of those two options I feel are better than what we get in this movie. And of course, once it's revealed that the main character is the one that's going to give birth to the Antichrist, we see how these particular nuns suddenly turn on her, or at least from her perspective. And this is where the movie loses me, because, at least in the Omen, the original movie, it's told to us that Damien was adopted. However, we see the mother take the baby out of the situation, because she gives birth to 2 babies, 1 boy and 1 girl. Maybe she took the girl, ? I'm not really sure. Maybe that could have been it. I don't know. I'm not really certain. No, because they say the name Damien right at the tail end of the movie. That's right. That's right at the tail end of this movie, the first Omen. You hear the guy in the background say, "His name will be Damien." So that can't be it. They took the son, but then they say the mom died in the original movie. So they got something wrong here. Or they, I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be something in between or after. But yeah, I feel like the pacing of this movie is also a bit on the slower side, which I don't mind by itself, but, asterisk, I do feel like with the lack of character that we get here, I do feel like those two things, character and pacing, usually go hand in hand with how well a story is doing. You know, even if something's, say, fast-paced, if the character work is good, then the pacing still wouldn't be an issue for me. But here, even with it being slower, if, again, the character development were good, I still wouldn't have an issue, because writing to me comes first. Pacing seems to be a symptom of the problem, not, often just a criticism of itself, but it stems from somewhere. And I think I'm starting to recognize more and more in my reviews that it does more so come from a combination with the type of pacing we're typically getting, with the type of character work we're getting, which is, in this movie, a lack of character building as well as slow pacing up until, the initial, scene, that being the one where the woman kills herself. Up until that point, we're not really learning all that much, an awful lot. And it feels like we could be building up suspense or building up characters in a way of, more so how they deal with religion or something. I know there's a moment where she suddenly decides to go to a party because some other girl invites her there, and that scene does seem a little bit weird, all things considered. Yeah. I don't know how else to put that scene. It just seemed very off-center for the purposes of this movie. Considering that they're trying to, track with a horror story, presumably. And the scene where they're at the club does seem very, there's not a lot happening, which seems to track with everything else in the writing, but it's also tracked with this lack of, okay, now that she's here, she feels tested, or because that seems to be the implication, I guess, but they don't really do much with that, being this quote-unquote being tested or whatever. And it seems to even further imply that the guy had some further knowledge, question mark, or something or other. I don't know. Was he bought in? Something could have been spoken to after the fact, or because he dies. I mean, that's the next death sequence in this, is him getting hit by a car. I mean, he does seem apologetic, and it does seem like they never resolve what he's apologetic for. So it does seem a little bit there's a puzzle piece there somewhere, and there's already one placed down. If that makes any sense. But the one that's trying to attach to that puzzle piece isn't quite right. So, yeah, I will say, in terms of this review, I find myself in the horrible statement of, I really wish this movie were a lot better. And I mean, to give credence to the original movie, that movie also has slow pacing. And yeah, I will grant it a criticism against it as well. Some of the dialogue from some of the characters, like the priest, does come across as little avoidance-y, like he's trying to avoid saying something specific, where it feels like being direct would have been a little bit more favorited by him in in the moments we see him in. And yeah, I do have issues with the first movie, but I will say, in terms of the character we follow, because the movie's a lot more focused, it's an older movie, so I am trying to be as objective as possible, and I do want to keep that in mind. It does feel like it has a lot more focus on the main character, that being this father who's running for president. And, you know, both of these movies, the original and the first Omen, have this research section of the movie, which is a typical horror trope of the research section of, you know, what is monster. So I don't have that against either movie necessarily. In fact, I think this is what leads them in this movie to figure out that she is the one, or whatever. But in the original, it does seem to allude to the potential of whatever Damien is, and making the father question his own beliefs, because he didn't seem like a religious person at the beginning of the movie, and then events occur that push him a lot closer to, say, a religious sort of potential or outcome. And, you know, there are things you could definitely do to improve upon that, as I said. Like, for example, with the mother character in the original movie, having her push more against it, or she comes across as someone who's more... She mentions how she feels ill about the situation, which almost does fall more so under a supernatural thing that appears natural, because, you know, she's claiming that's what it is. But there are definitely a few things you could, like, enhance about her in relation to Damien. You know, there are definitely things you could add to her character, where, you know, you could have events like the "It's for you, Damien," and have her like be like, "What?" And then when it's directly her in the line of fire, then she can be like snapping back at Damien, which is something I don't think we get a lot of in the movie, if from what I can remember of seeing of it. Anyway, that's again going back to another movie, but it is where this movie leads, so I feel like it's a little bit more prompted to mention it. But as far as this movie, the first Omen, is concerned, in terms of a score, I think I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10. I feel like a 5 out of 10 is a bit more apt, as it feels more meh, like a half kind of decent movie. Like, there's quite a bit you could do to fix this up. There are definitely scenes that are like, okay, they're clearly doing something here, but it could be prompted by either by better back and forths, or better character growth, or better, just better things overall throughout the course of the movie, rather than certain sections of the movie that are stronger than other parts of the movie. But that's my review of the first Omen, and hopefully relatively soon I'll get a new camera. But if that is my fate to never have a camera again, then I guess I'll just be talking with a poster of the movie on from now on. Who knows? But we'll see. If I get some, again, PayPal support, again, I'll be directing all that money towards getting a new microphone, a new camera and a new gaming computer. So consider supporting me if you want to help me get better at what I do. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.